for our What in the World segment. You rarely hear the words China and election in the same breath. You see, unlike the US, France, or Egypt, all of which do have elections coming up, China has a leadership transition this year, a planned event where hand-picked individuals are promoted up. But there were real elections in China last week, of the people and by the people, a democratic vote with real ballots, real candidates, and real clean results. Welcome to Wukong. It's a small fishing village in southeast China, just a few hundred miles from Hong Kong. The story began a few months ago when the villagers of Wukong protested against a land grab. These are not so uncommon in China. Corrupt officials often snatch privately held agricultural plots and then sell them to developers for high prices. Protests are not uncommon either. It is said that tens of thousands of demonstrations, just like this one in Wukong, have taken place in China every year. Two-thirds of those are because of land disputes. So what made Wukong different? For one, the people didn't give up. They were remarkably organized in holding noisy mass rallies. And they drove out the local leaders who were complicit in the land grabs. But what's unusual here is the response. The provincial government, led by this man, Party Secretary Wang Yang, conceded to the villagers' demands. On his call, the province returned some of the disputed farmland, released detained activists, and allowed the villagers to hold their own elections. All that led to these scenes last week, 6,000 villagers voting in an organized fashion. The media, both local and Western, were allowed full access. And the main winners were the same protesters who led the rebellion. So democracy is possible in China. Wukong is now being talked of as a model for other Chinese villages. The theory goes that a Wukong effect will sweep the country and create more uprisings, making it harder for the government to crack down. That in turn will lead to a larger democratic movement at the highest levels of government. I'm not so sure that's going to happen anytime soon in China. For every Wukong, there is a Tibet. China's leaders know how to brandish an iron fist just as they know how to use a velvet glove. The key here is to understand the way China functions. Villages, where rebellions are most likely, fall under the rule of provincial leaders. These leaders are immensely powerful and with great levels of autonomy. So they make their own independent decisions on a case-by-case basis. But the idea that central command in Beijing would allow broader national move towards democracy is probably a fallacy. Try protesting at Tiananmen Square in central Beijing, and you'll see for yourself. There is one larger potential trend here. Watch China's leadership transition later this year very closely. The top posts seem to be decided. But if reform-minded provincial leaders like Wang Yang make the 9-member Politburo Standing Committee, the group that actually runs China, then perhaps there may be a shift towards some loosening of controls. So Wukong is a heartening story. But remember one thing, change in today's China is rarely bottom-up and sweeping in nature. If there's going to be change, for now, it's going to be incremental, and it will come from the top down.